Hey guys, welcome to the Podtendo podcast. If you're new to the show, it kind of makes sense. You might be picking up on this one. It's kind of a big deal in the retro video game community and just Nintendo community in general, especially with the release of the SNES Classic this last year. The first kind of 5-10 minutes, we're going to do kind of a little ramble, recap, just kind of general banter. Then we're going to get into the show proper. So if you're coming to listen to just Earthbound today, please skip ahead till you hear the sound cue, probably around the 10-minute mark, and we'll get into the show proper. All right, so we're ready to rock and roll. So we survived the year. It's exciting stuff.
Yeah, it was a long year for sure.
It was a long year indeed. So this is coming out right before the new year. Kind of exciting, monumental kind of time of the year where we get to look and reflect. And I think this year it's the first of the year, the first of a week, the first of a month is all on a Monday. So if you ever wanted to change or start something, there literally cannot be a better day than this. So
that's true. And if you're like me, you're already trying to proactively kind of get those life goals lined up for the New Year's. I didn't used to do New Year's resolutions, but I don't know. I feel like this is a good year to really try to take on one, because I always fail one. So it's like I want to carry one all the way through.
Yeah, the only ones I'm ever successful, the ones that are like fun. Like one year I was going to read a book a month, so I just went and bought a book and read it, and it was like that was, you know, at one point I think I read, because I just figured it was 12 books in the year. So at one point I read like 4 books in 1 month, and then took a couple months off, and then like found like simpler books and stuff like that. So like that one was definitely fun. I had one where I was going to beat 100 video games. So I counted up every video game I ever completed, and then there was like 10 that I needed to, and I went through and like found, like that's when I first played Mega Man 2, and I wonder if I have that list somewhere.
Be interesting to bust out.
I think I do, like, because I'm a hoarder, and I have this little food journal that I've written, like I write down everything that I've eaten now. Like probably I have 5 years worth of these journals sitting in a box somewhere, and I can go and we can look at any date in the last 5 years, and we can look at what I ate that day.
Yeah, that's like my no sponsorship, but my MyFitnessPal and me. I've apparently been logging food for on and off like bloody, I think it's getting on 4 years or something.
Jeez. Oh, geez. So if the recording does sound a little different, I will give everyone a disclaimer. I just recently moved kind of for a couple weeks, so my recording setup's a little different. Hopefully it sounds better. I mean, I'm sitting in kind of like a closed off room with a bunch of pillows all around me to kind of deafen the sound, so maybe it sounds better. I'm on a squeaky chair. It's exciting, but
that is exciting.
End of the year. Hopefully everyone had a good Christmas, safe, still with us. You drank and played Mario Kart instead of driving around in real life playing Tokyo Drift. And yeah, we're going to do a year-end recap. So we're coming up. It's New Year's this weekend. Lots of year-end shows are propping up. So we're just going to look at our favorite moments of 2017. Put this in a little time capsule. So starting off, Tyson, what is your top story, your top news story that stands out from 2017?
I mean, there's a couple big ones, but I want to go positive, or potentially positive.
Okay.
Bitcoin is at record highs right now, and that's pretty cool. I mean, I think it's almost at like 18,000 for one of these damn things.
Jesus, did you invest in Bitcoin?
I did not. I was one of those. I was going to school at the time. I was broke. What kind of expendable money did you think I had?
Even June this last year, though, like it was still not. It was like $1,000 for one Bitcoin.
Yeah.
So if you had invested $10,000, you'd have a lot of money right now.
You sure would.
Yeah.
That's the one of those things where, like, if you look at ridiculous growth when it comes to investments, it's like you need to hit those kind of early growth stocks. Like, if you would have got in with Starbucks or one of those big corporations that like just pop up and then they just blow up overnight, and all of a sudden that, you know, $1,000 worth of stock is now worth like 200% it. You're like, this is acceptable.
Yeah. All right, that's fun. My top news story of the year, I'm going to not be positive, but I'm going to take a positive spin on it, and it's actually going to relate to my favorite, or my top TV show, so I'm going to do two at once. So my top news story, I guess, is just the political atmosphere that's going on right now in the United States, and how it's being portrayed and perceived and talked about in like everyday popular culture,
Okay.
right? Where it's just always like, oh man, look how dumb Donald Trump is, and like, oh, Donald Trump's gonna go to war and with North Korea, and like you hear about it all the time, and it's always like, man, Donald Trump's stupid. So that's my like probably top news story of the year. But my take on it comes from the Rick and Morty episode, the Rick Lantis mix-up, where Rick and Morty are going to go to Atlantis, but instead we get told the tales of the Citadel, and there's this society where the upper class Ricks are suppressing kind of the lower class Ricks, and then the Mortys live there as well, but they're like the bottom of the barrel there, and they're kind of degraded and disrespected. And there's an election going on because the Council of Ricks was killed in a previous like couple episodes, and it's talking about a Morty who comes in with a different voice and challenges everyone's opinion and doesn't just play to the masses or like the most powerful. He plays to the masses and talks about changing everyone's life, and I've thought that was such a powerful, striking commentary on just how shitty is everyone's lives that voted for Donald Trump. Because everyone's like, oh, Donald Trump's stupid, who would vote? But, like, how terrible are people's lives that looked at him and said, this guy might get me, like, might improve my life. My life sucks. My life, I lost my job. I can't pay for this. I can't pay for that. So, I thought that was a really striking, powerful episode. And it kind of is just that interesting take. Because people don't want to talk about how shitty people's lives are in... you know, like Detroit, or how bad these black people's lives are, and these people who are in small towns losing their jobs and are now, like, can't afford anything, that they looked at and they said, maybe this guy will bring me my job back. You know? Because that's a shitty thing to talk about. You'd rather just sit there and do the cynical approach, like, Donald Trump's stupid, Donald Trump's stupid, what dummy, versus having those like unnerving conversations about how shitty our society is, right? So
yeah, well, and to be honest, if you want to get a really good perspective on how a society is, look at the day-to-day life of the average cop, and that's kind of what they did. They just did an episode of Cops where it's like, this is the shit that people deal with on a daily basis. Like most of us live in our bubbles, or you know, middle class to lower middle class kind of people. Is you really you can see both sides. You can see how the rich people have it, and they like to pretend like their problems are the only ones that matter because they're the biggest thing in the world, and people with money can influence things, whereas the people that don't have anything are going through sometimes even worse shit. And it's like, in comparison, you look at somebody's like, oh, I can't get my luxury handbag on time, what a travesty at the store, versus somebody that's like, how am I gonna pay rent, how am I gonna do this, how am I gonna do that? And it's actually like, poverty drives a lot of crime. So if people are struggling financially, it's they did a really good job by comparing it with Cops. I'll give you that for sure.
Yeah, so that's probably my top news story, as well as my top TV show of the year. What's your top TV episode show of the year?
Well, I could go a few different ways on this one, but I'm going to go kind of my unexpected favorite TV show of the year. It's not a perfect show and doesn't have, like, all the episodes are great, but it's like every other episode is great, and that's The Orville.
Okay.
It's basically Seth MacFarlane's take on, like, TNG mixed with Galaxy Quest.
Okay.
So
nice.
It's kind of like a episodic Star Trek, but mixed in with a little bit of Seth MacFarlane humor. But everybody, it's like super like Galaxy Quest. They kind of flip-flop between reality and not reality. But I mean, I guess it is all real in that show. Anywho, it's basically like Galaxy Quest. Just
excellent.
Yeah, if you haven't watched it, check it out.
I haven't seen that. I might have to check it out. So fun.
Yes. What's your number one TV show?
It was Rick and Morty. That episode of Rick and Morty. I think I used to enjoy South Park a lot because they did these social commentary, these like little criticisms, but they took a very high concept approach to it, right? Where now they kind of got stuck in this repetitive, just like Trump is bad machine, and lots of the I found lots of the material was just kind of stale and bland for the most part.
I don't know, man. There's a couple just absolute gems from this season. I'd say the last two for sure are kind of like they're on my lower favorites. But when you watch them all in like one go, and you actually see the through or the thread that goes all the way through, it does make sense, and I guess they're kind of doing that with the season, but not really.
No, I think Rick and Morty, in my mind, has surpassed it and does the better social satire better than South Park. So I think South Park's just taking it easy. I don't know. They missed something. These last couple seasons haven't done it for me. What's your favorite movie of the year?
This is a tough call. I'm going to have to say Get Out, just because I didn't see it coming. And yeah, it's a pretty interesting social commentary, so I don't know.
We're getting deep into the social aspects of society on this episode, apparently. So.
Yeah, I guess so. But it's also one of those things where it's a thriller, and I didn't really see where it was going. And it was a pretty good, decent comedy, so... I mean, being a white person, it's nice to laugh at how pretentious and stupid we are.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yep.
Very true. Nice. Top movie for me, I thought about it. I looked at a list. I'm thinking Guardians 2. That's the only movie that I actively... I go back and I will rewatch it. Right? These other movies I'm seeing, I'm
that's true.
Right? And I think that's a big part of the replayability, that rewatchability. Your favorite movie you should go back and watch all the time, right? So... the fact that I go back and rewatch even just parts of it, or I'm watching big chunks of it, is pretty striking, right? So I don't think any other movie this year I've actively gone and looked back. So
that's fair.
Top favorite video game of the year. Let's end with that.
I'm gonna go with Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, that's me too.
Yeah,
me too. Speaking of which,
between that and Sonic Mania, because that one really underwhelmed me, and for the price you can find it these days, God, that's a good game.
I mean, I did wrap it top to bottom. I've done everything. I've played a game with every single, so Sonic and Tails, just Sonic, just Tails, just Knuckles, and I've wrapped it 100% for all those files. So I did really enjoy that. But I'm gonna go with Breath of the Wild. Maybe Mario Odyssey. It might be my second, just because I had a lot of fun playing that game too. But Breath of the Wild, especially with the new DLC that's coming out, they just released the second expansion this last week. I actually haven't picked it up since then, but I'm definitely kind of excited to pick it up and go around and get the Phantom Ganon armor. So
yeah, I did see somebody cruising around on a motorcycle horse.
Yep.
So that looked fun.
Yep. Your horses become you can get new armor and stuff for them. So although the one down point is the Trial of the Swords that I was trying to complete. It's this multi-stage kind of dungeon where you have to go through. You start with no equipment and you have to build yourself up, which sounds cool. And you're like, oh, great. At the end, you unlock the true power of the Master Sword. All that happens is the Master Sword is just at 60 power all the time. It still runs out of power and breaks. And you have to let it recharge. So I stopped it because I assumed that if you beat it all, you would just have the Master Sword and it would never break and you would just have an unstoppable sword in the game. But oh well. Oh well indeed.
Yeah. It was one of those things where it's such a minute change, and that game would have been almost perfect in my mind.
Yeah. It's not a perfect system. It's lots of fun though. I learned how to shield surf recently while playing it. Makes a lot of fun. Anytime you're on a downhill slope, you can just do a flip and land on your shield and just go flying. It's delightful. Nice. All right, so that's kind of our year-end wrap-up. Hopefully we accomplished something there. Sometimes I'm like, how do we talk for 15 minutes on these?
We get into debates.
yeah. All right, so with that, if you're skipping ahead and you're still waiting for that sound cue, it's coming. I mean, it's right next, so don't skip ahead anymore or you will miss it. But let's get into today's show.
Help for Wonder Kids save the planet from hideous destruction. Venture through 8 mysterious levels to gain power and put an end to the interstellar threat. Beware, the ultimate test is the encounter with a powerful guidance. Save the planet in Earthbound from Nintendo.
Welcome to the Podtendo podcast, where we analyze, reminisce, and replay the glory of old Nintendo games. We can be contacted on Twitter at Podtendo Podcast. Email us at podtendo@gmail.com. Check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/Podtendo, as well as we have a YouTube channel where you can listen to our shows as well on youtube.com/Podtendo. I'm your co-host, Lounge Pants Mick, and I'll be joined every episode by my co-host,
Valley Girl Tyson.
Whatever.
Just prepping everybody.
So, we're going to get into today's game, go through it. It's Earthbound, kind of a classic RPG. I'm going to start the preface that I spend a fair bit of time making my notes for these shows, typically. So, I mean, I played the game, I probably played this game for, 14 hours. I probably spent, 1 or 2 hours working on the notes for it. Then you have, the time we're spending recording, and then the time we spent editing. So, I mean, by the time we're done one of these shows together, we've probably put in 40 hours of work.
Yeah.
And I lost 2 hours of work on my notes, so I just, quickly threw something together. So, we're going to see how it works out. If anything seems where, we forget whole sections of the show, maybe I was using a different template, so...
Yeah, it happens.
It happens. So, Earthbound. The release date of this game was June 5th, 1995. How Long to Beat has this title at 28 hours. The price at release was $60. If we factor in inflation, that'd be $89. Today, eBay price. You can get a $12 reproduction card. Reproduction. In one of the episodes, I was saying reproduction. Am I saying that right?
Reproductive.
Yeah, I was saying reproductive card. A reproductive card is a card you have sex with. A reproduction card is somebody has, after the fact, remade a card. So that's what I'm going for. At $12 for a reproduction, not reproductive card. Oh, I should have just read the next sentence. Damn it. And then there's about $200 for an original copy. And I think that's just the cartridge. If you got a complete inbox copy of this, it would be $3 something. This is part of the holy trinity of kind of Super Nintendo games. This is one of the really expensive ones.
Yeah, and it's one of those ones where if you have an inbox copy, you keep that shit at a bank in a safety deposit box.
Yeah, it's funny that it's so rare, let's put it, to be honest with you. And then the eShop price, $12 on the Wii U and 3DS. So it is affordable, and I guess it's on the virtual or the SNES Classic. So if you have one of those, you can play this little gem, and probably worth playing.
Yeah, well, considering you can buy the SNES Classic for the price of basically this game originally out of box on on eBay if you want to go the legit route.
Yeah.
Just buy yourself a SNES Classic and play your way through it. Because it honestly, you can. I've never played it before, so this was it's a good experience.
Yeah, and even there are a couple legit reproduction. God damn it, reproductive. No, that's the reproduced versions of the SNES Classic and the NES Classic that I've been looking at. They go for about $80 to $90. I don't know if there's an exchange rate. It might be a little bit more, but you can, if you want to get something like that, you can bring it in. It just costs a little bit more. So again, I guess we'll go into the development details. I don't know. I feel I was going somewhere, and then my story just kind of ran out of it. And goddamn reproductive and reproductive.
really throws a curveball when you get stuck on 2 words.
It really does. It really does. So the development details of this game. As was tradition for Nintendo, Mother 2 was developed in Japan and localized in the United States, a process which the game is translated into English for Western audiences. As the games in the Mother series tend to be released in North America at the same time, the title Mother 2 was changed from Earthbound to avoid confusion. Is the only game. That makes sense. So basically, Mother never made it on the NES, so we only got Earthbound Mother 2, so they changed it to Earthbound. Why? Not really sure. The localization team was tasked with translating an outsider's view of the US for an American audience. Under the direction from Nintendo, Limbaum worked with the Japanese artists and programmers to remove references to intellectual properties, religion, and alcohol from the North American release, such as the Coke trucks, the red crosses from hospitals, and crosses from tombs. But the red crosses, in theory, weren't for the religion aspect. It was more for the fact that Red Cross is an actual like trademarked symbol. So alcohol became coffee. Ness was no longer nude when he goes into his imagination, and the happy cultists were made to look less than the Ku Klux Klan. So in the Japanese version, are these blue guys that look like Klan members that have HH on their foreheads. They removed the HH, which is very similar to KKK, and they put little pom-pom, like Santa balls on the end of their hats to distance themselves from that horrific image.
The things that you don't realize we've made a reference to something until it's too late.
Yep. Well, because in Japan, like lots of games, if you look at like localization into North America, Japan is a lot more easygoing and chill in their society, and they're not so uptight. So I mean, there's lots of mild nudity, and if you look at some of the sprites in most RPGs or most games, like showing a girl's boobs isn't considered like over sexualized and it's going to wreck children. It's just a thing that happens. Because there's one anime, I forget what it is, but it's about this like giant war that happens with like mechs in the future, and the opening scene is this girl getting ready for work, and she's like a 13-year-old girl or something like that, and the opening scene is her getting naked and like getting dressed, but it's not done in a sexualized nature. It's done as if you're a 13-year-old girl, you would get ready to go to school, right? And it's played off just as that, and then she like goes to school and there's like a whole other story. But like in theory, you're having an underage character naked. So in our North American society, we'd be like, well, you can't, like, they would be censored and they'd put crosses on it and bars and stuff. But because like in their mind, they're just like, yeah, whatever, it's fine. Like if you're gonna jerk off to it, you're gonna jerk off to it regardless. Like we like, right? Like you're gonna find it from some other way.
Have you watched on a side topic? Have you watched Big Mouth on Netflix? Yeah. it's slowly coming around.
Yeah, but like I still feel like it's for sure it is, and then there's definitely more media that is kind of pushing those boundaries. But like Japan is a lot more loose with it, you know, like Dead or Alive.
That's fair. And was in the 90s when everybody was a lot more uptight.
We talked for 20 minutes about like the social aspect and like the pulse that our society is under, and like you can't say anything nowadays without being criticized and ostracized, and so I don't know. It's one of those things where it's I don't know if it's getting better, to be honest with you.
Yeah, well, I guess we'll see with 2018.
Yeah,
right?
hopefully 2018. Well, hopefully we're still here in 2018, you know? With people with their finger on the buttons, right? I don't know what that means.
Yeah, well, let's not think about that, and let's just get back to video games.
I was going to talk about net neutrality. That was going to be my story. Yeah, oh well.
Yeah, well.
We can always talk about that another day.
And we probably will.
Now, Nintendo spent about $2 million on the marketing of this game. The American release was ultimately viewed as unsuccessful within Nintendo. The game's atypical marketing campaign was derived from the game's unusual humor. As part of Nintendo's larger Play It Loud campaign, Earthbound, the game's Stinks campaign, included foul-smelling scratch-and-sniff advertising. Lindholm and his team were devastated by the poor release and critical response and sales. He recalled the game and was hurt by the reception of its graphics as simplistic at the time. Lindholm felt that the game changed the RPG formula, example, the rolling health meter and fleeing enemies, while ignoring it in the following years. Though he had the game has aged well at the time of the Virtual Console release in 2013. So there you go. It apparently was a huge failure. Like no one was buying this game when it came out, and I think because the aesthetics of the game were so bizarre. Like the game didn't just come in like a Super Nintendo box. It came in these giant boxes that actually had a strategy guide built in with it. So that's the one that's super rare. We'll get more into it in the first details, but I'm pretty sure I've seen this game before, like in a store as a child. So
yeah, I somehow like remembered the I think I remember the ads as a kid, because I think that the ad had like a scratch and sniff section on the TV, so stupid kids would try to scratch it and smell it.
So
yeah, like I'm 90% sure I remember that. So
yeah, I don't know. So apparently wasn't a great success. It's picked up a kind of more of a following the fact. Hence why I think because they've recalled so many games, maybe that's why it's a little bit rare. I think that's kind of where I was like, is it like they released so many copies, but I think because they like brought them back and destroyed them, that's probably why it's considered a more rare game. So on to the controls of this game. Pretty standard RPG controls. You move around the screen. You have an interact button. Getting used to, like, if you hit A, the menu pops up. That's really annoying. As well as it gives you prompts. So similar to Dragon Quest or Dragon Warrior, where it's like, talk to something, check something, open up your inventory. I think the left shoulder button interacts with characters, so I found myself using that a lot more. And that's kind of like the exploring, I would say the exploring part of the game. Overworld.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, the exploration in this game is pretty spot on. Yeah, this game is actually, like, I really didn't think I was going to be as impressed as I was. That's why I'm kind of shocked that this game is just, like, wasn't a big success. I mean, I guess people just didn't really get it by just looking at it. But it's one of those games where it's like Wind Waker, where it's like, once you get past the basically graphic style, you're just like, man, the layers on this game are actually fantastic, which is why I know that Matt Stone from South Park, the main guy,
really enjoyed it, right? And actually tried to base the stick of truth on this game.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice. Yeah, in terms of like other exploration things, the game is I like it's fairly big. So without a strategy guide, I think you would spend a lot of time walking around not knowing where to go. And in terms of battle mechanics, the battle mechanics are kind of nice. There's a rolling HP counter, like we mentioned earlier. So when you take hit, instead of just saying you took 5 damage and now you're down 5 health, it slowly, well, not slowly, but like it roll down, which allows you to quickly heal your team. So just like in an like a tabletop RPG, if you take a critical hit, you can make a roll to see if you potentially heal yourself quickly, or maybe someone can cast a spell really quickly on you. So it's,
or you can kill the boss.
Yeah, so it's kind of neat in that sense, where it's not just, oh, you took a hit, you're dead. It's that rolling counter. Does it revolutionize it? Maybe a little bit. I don't know. I didn't have a lot of trouble with this game, so.
No, but I think it's definitely neat innovation for sure. Like, I don't know many other games that basically give you the chance to finish off the bad guy with 1 or 2 blows as you're falling to your death.
Yeah.
Which is kind of
yeah, very true. So those are, I would say, kind of the basic controls. I mean, if something else pops up, we can always talk about it. So from there, though, I think part of the reason why we're having trouble remembering what's going on, and we're not exactly like into this game, I would say right now, you could say there's a little bit of like hesitation and resistance going on between the two of us. We're going to jump into our patented Wayback Machine, and we're going to travel back to June 5th, 1995, and we're going to find out what was happening maybe in our lives, and as well as culture at that point. So, Tyson's favorite show. This is where I read 2 different shows, and Tyson picks what's his favorite. On The Simpsons, Who Shot Mr. Burns? Part 1. Mr. Burns acts more evil than usual, resulting in the death threats from all the town members. At the end, it appears that one of the residents actually goes through with killing Burns. So, it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, do you remember the contest of if you figured out who shot Mr. Burns, you won like a prize or something? Was it like, I think it was a cash prize probably.
I recall being at my friend's house. So I'm guessing it was maybe in the summer, maybe it was in June, and I remember thinking, or I had I said something like, man, I wish Simpsons was on all day. I would love to just sit and watch Simpsons. And then an infomercial came on that was just like a 5-10 minute kind of clip of, hey, someone shot Mr. Burns. Can you solve who it is? If you can, provide your 3 evidence from the show and send them to this address. And it just repeated. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, what the fuck's going on? And both my buddy and his mom are both like, this is what happens when you wish for The Simpsons to be on all the time. That, like, you did this. You broke our TV. Everything. And I was like, no! Yeah.
That's a pretty legit strategy for them.
Yeah, I thought it was funny.
Just be like, you broke our TV. Buy us a new one, kid.
Yeah, great. Or, is that Tyson's favorite show? Or is it potentially Gargoyles? Medieval guardians freeze themselves in time after an ancient curse falls upon them. In modern day, an evil guy awakens them, and they must rise to be heroes. Specifically the episode Reawakening. Demona and Xantos combine science and sorcery together to resurrect Goliath's rookery brother Coldstone, who blames Goliath for the death of the entire clan and goes on a city-wide rampage. So, what's your favorite show?
Man, Child Tyson would easily say Gargoyles.
Stone by day, warriors by night. We were betrayed by the humans we had sworn to protect, frozen in stone by a magic spell for 1,000 years. Now here in Manhattan, the spell is broken, and we live again.
Because that show was awesome at the time. And
Is it still awesome? Like, it might be.
I would need to go back and rewatch it. I swear, I think me and the girlfriend rewatched like the first 4 episodes or whatever, just that opening kind of story arc. Yeah, I don't know. We didn't continue, so I have a sneaking suspicion that it might have not been as amazing as I remember.
I'm waiting for... I was looking at it on Amazon, and they have like volumes 1, 2, and 3 for individual sale, as well as they have one complete copy. And it's a little bit cheaper, but it's unavailable. So I'm just keeping my eye on it so when it becomes available, I might buy that and watch it, because I remember Gargoyles. I'm like, oh, this is neat. It's like Gargoyles and they're in New York and they have to fight crime. And then I was watching it randomly at like a friend's house, or, you know, like when I saw Grandma and Grandpa, and I'm like, oh, Gargoyles. And they were in this like medieval boat back in medieval times talking to a god or something, and like these fairy, and I was like, I feel like I missed something in the show, you know, and I can't quite enjoy it because I'm missing like 3 other pieces. Like, why is this a thing? So I'd be curious just to go back and like get to that episode. I'm like, oh, that makes sense. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
So
like most shows jump the shark. This show just like basically was like, nah, we're gonna go the cool wave jumping the shark. We're just gonna keep taking leaps forward that are awesome and unexpected.
So.
Because let's face it, when we were expecting Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, that's fair.
When we first watched this show.
Okay. So
yeah.
Did you make a decision?
Yeah, I gotta go Gargoyles.
All right. I'm excited to play the Gargoyle song. Hopefully it's fun. Other top TV shows at the time, though, were News Radio, ER, Home Improvement, Friends, and The Drew Carey Show. So it's, I was like, I kind of remember this very bland, like, mid-90s run of TV shows. Nothing was really great. And randomly, because Seinfeld like had quit or, like, ended a year or 2 before, Tim Allen was just randomly the most, overpaid man on TV because of Home Improvement, so... Because everything else kind of sucked.
Everybody else had to watch something, right?
Top cartoons around this time, though, were Pinky and the Brain, Freakazoid, and Cow and Chicken. So, pretty exciting. And I'm like, I kind of remember that time. Like, I definitely...
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's okay. I remember I rewatched Freakazoid not too long ago, and that was okay. Pinky and the Brain's always great, but Cow and Chicken was...
Not for me.
Yeah, exactly.
That's fair. Top movies that came out in June 5th, 1995. The Bridges of Madison County, Fluke, The Glass Shield, Love, and Human Remains, Pushing Hands. A week before these phenomenal movies was Johnny Mnemonic. 2 weeks before that, Braveheart came out. And 4 weeks before, Die Hard 3 came out. So, like, there's some movies, and I only mentioned Johnny Mnemonic because one time Tyson was on a sleepover and my mom said, I'll take you to the video store and you can get one rated R movie. And I picked, and I wish I knew what the other movie that I didn't pick was, but I picked Johnny Mnemonic, which is some stupid fucking movie with Keanu Reeves, and I hated it. And I feel like the other movie, was like Terminator 2 or something, and I'm like, so one of the best movies ever or Johnny Mnemonic? So I've always been very disappointed with that choice.
And that's a stupid kid. You just choose the one that looked most interesting based on the box.
Maybe it wasn't. shoot, I should look in like other movies that were released in that time, see if I can figure it out. Then the top video games that came out around this time, or I guess just 95 in general, was Chrono Trigger, Donkey Kong Country 2, Yoshi's Island, Mega Man 7, and Earthworm Jim 2. So we've played several. We've actually been in this year before. Doesn't it feel nice?
Yep. It does. I remember it like it was yesterday.
And, of course, well then if you did, you'll remember the top 3 songs that were around at this time. So we'll let Tyson sing a little bit of every song. The number 3 song, according to the Billboard Top Charts, in June 5th, 1995, was Take a Bow by Madonna. It's a great one. The number 2 song was This Is How We Do It by Montel.
One song.
Go. And the number 1 song, Have You Ever Really Loved a Woman by Bryan Adams. Getting it there. I was like, I've heard of one of those songs, and like the Bryan Adams song, like I might have heard it, but I feel like all of Bryan Adams songs just kind of sound the same.
Yeah, I bet you I could probably write that song. If the world ever gets like erased and you have to rewrite history,
you're taking Bryan Adams.
I got Bryan Adams. I know that one riff he uses. I just gotta throw some crappy lyrics in there.
All right, well, that's good. Well, Tyson is our Bryan Adams expert, so he's got. Now that our nostalgia juices are flowing, and Tyson is back just like it's yesterday in June 1995, we're going to talk about just our first memories of this game. So this is, I swear I saw this in the bargain shop in Fernie before. I remember as a kid, it was like, we got Symphony of the Night, and it was like $10 or $20 or something, and then there was this big awful game, and they were selling it for like $60. I remember looking at it being like, what a waste of money that would be. So the bargain shop couldn't even get this game in my pocket, you know?
Wasn't it Canadian Tire when Canadian Tire still sold video games? I think
so. And like I'm thinking Zellers. Like I definitely saw this game, but I don't know. I think we are also pretty early on. I think at this point the N64 is like quickly approaching, and we kind of can smell it in the landscape. And again, it was one of those things where I think we got a game we'd get games at Christmas. So my birthday was coming up. I wonder what I got for my birthday in 1995.
I wonder if that was the year that we got the Nintendo Power subscription.
I don't think we ever had a Nintendo Power. Oh yeah, no, we did. But it was for it was a couple years in the future because it was for like the N64 games. Yeah,
makes sense.
Yeah. All right. And then I also played this game when it first came out on the Virtual Console in 2013 for my Wii U. That was like one of my first purchases. That and Super Metroid. So I did not get that far though. Like I remember playing it for a really long time and not getting very far. So shame on me.
Yeah, this is one of those games where if you get lost, this immediately becomes very long and tedious. Especially if you run low on healing items and you gotta do a lot of backtracking.
Yeah. I'm curious now, because that first part of the show kind of flowed like normally. In the second half, with my like long, over-detailed notes, I have a very condensed version. So I'm curious how long the second part of the show is going to take. So moving on. Let's go into the game's story.
The energies. In the early 1900s, they begin abducting Earth humans to raise their alien children and love. One of these couples, Maria, and her husband, who's a scientist, George, raise Gygus as their own child. The loving relationship fosters fresh PSI energies in Gygus. George, however, studies their PSI in secret and steals their alien research into PSI and escapes to Earth to hide. Angry and afraid of what humanity could become with psionic energy, the aliens promise to conquer Earth while George has another kid with an another woman. 80 years later, the alien army arrives, led by Gygus, who has now matured in the fullness of PSI power. On Earth, Gygus' powers begin to animate objects and possess wild animals and berserk humans. George's brave son is too busy to save the world, so he sends his 12-year-old son, Ninton, to investigate the phenomenon. The spirit of Gygus' dead mother, Maria, contacts the boy and tells him the only way to defeat Gygus is to remind him of her by singing her lullaby. Gygus lands his ship on Earth to challenge Ninton and his crew of PSI warriors, who begins to sing the lullaby as Gygus lands blow after blow after blow and eventually breaking down, unable to bear the pain of the memories induced by the melody, so he retreats. Gygus continues to conquer other worlds and grow in everlasting power until his own physical body can no longer contain his own power. Disembodied, he becomes the incarnation of raw chaos, evil, and madness, the universal cosmic destroyer. By the late 2000s, his power extends and dominates all life in existence in the galaxy, except for a very few yet powerful beings still fighting him in a hopeless battle. Gygus steals the Apple of Enlightenment machine, which prophesies that he will be stopped by a boy named Ness, which is actually Ninton's son. Gygus travels 10 years back to the year 1990X to once again attack Earth in order to kill Ness while he's still young. But one of those small insurgents hitched a ride through time and in time to warn Ness of his destiny. He tells Ness that the only hope is to unite the powers within the Earth itself to protect it from Gygus.
What a great story indeed. On to the level notes of this game. So the point of this part is we're trying to do a walkthrough, let's play retrospective of the game. And off the top, I might start including the word retrospective, because I think that's what this show is supposed to be. It's a retrospective of the game. So it kind of encompasses all aspects of why this game exists, how this game works, and so forth. So we hope that you played along with it, have played in the past, or just exciting to hear kind of a fun story and the little adventure that we get to go on to. I have very brief notes. Anything I touch on, I'll talk about it, see what happens. So, most like most RPGs, you are awoken in bed. You go outside and you check on a crashed meteor. You learn that you are a child of destiny, and you have to save the world. So, it's unlike other games where you kind of explore, you're just explicitly told in this one, hey, you're a big deal. You're going to save the world one day from this bad guy, Gygus.
Yeah. And it's basically right from square one. Yep. It's look, you're the one we've all been waiting for, so it's up to you. It's they don't beat around the bush.
Yeah. At this point, too, you get your first inclination. You have a party, so your dog and your neighbor Pokey come along with you. There are dogs, snakes, crows that you have to fight. And it's funny because as you they're a challenge, and then all of a sudden you gain a level or two, and all of a sudden the dogs start running away and you start killing them in one hit, or you don't even go into a battle screen, you just get experience, and you're like, oh, that's weird. And it is very rewarding. One of the best parts of this game is over leveling, powering, and just being able to go and an enemy that was once tough, run into it and kill it in one hit and just collect experience.
Yeah, and they actually do the leveling in this game where you don't have to necessarily grind. The next level or area you go, you might, if you struggle for a little bit, you'll get crazy amounts of experience and just catch up almost immediately. It's really nice.
Very true. So our first task is, obviously, it's the morning. We have to go save the world. We're told to go take something called a sound stone to a bunch of different markers around the world. So each marker will unlock part of the sound stone. You collect 8 of them, and we'll be able to stop Gygus. So we go to One-It.
Yep.
Is that One-It? Is that what you'd call it?
Yep.
On top of there's a little cave. If we go into the cave, there's some ants, slugs, nothing super difficult. I usually, for some reason, level up in this area a lot, but there's no penalty for death. If you die, you just get your money half taken away, and then you go home, and you're so close to your house. I just go and I battle as much as I can until I die, use up all my psychic abilities, go home and just kind of repeat until I'm able to kill everything fairly easily.
Yeah, and it's if you do a little bit of grinding right now, you're pretty well set for the next upcoming part where we do come across a pretty awesome statue at the bottom of a hole.
Yeah, because there's the one guy who you go into his house and he says, I never get sick and I'm strong because I eat garlic and work out every day.
Yeah.
And he's doing this weird mining operation, and he has this big gold statue in the mines below his house.
Yeah, and he's super friendly up until he gets really close to the statue, and then all of a sudden he just kind of becomes an asshole.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So at the end of the cave, there is a boss. You fight it's an ant, right?
I think so.
Or a mole, Mondo mole. No, Mondo mole's the second one. So you fight a big ant. I think it's the Titanic ant. You take him out. You unlock the Soundstone. We head back into town. The police are now looking for us because there was a police barricade that said, hey, don't go into this cave. We did it anyways. We're dragged inside, and the police then viciously attack us. After defeating each police officer, they become tame, or they return back to normal, and they say, oh, hey, sorry, and leave. This apparently was influenced by the Rodney King beatings, where the police brutality was just attacking a normal citizen. So, yeah. So suck it, America. That's from Japan. Bitch.
Way to be racist, assholes.
Now that the police are gone, though, we're allowed to go through the barrier and head on to Tucson. I think that's probably my favorite name of the whole game is Tucson.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Spelled Twoson. There, we find that our friend who we're looking for, Paula, has been kidnapped. There's like a really complicated system where we have to go to somewhere called Berglund Park. We meet the guy who's in charge of Berglund Park, who's all these burglars, as well as you have to talk to the Apple and Orange Kid, these two inventors, because there's a lead pencil in the way. You have to go talk to them. They want some money or something. Talk to what's his name? Everdread in Berglund Park. Go look at the pencil eraser, then come back. Then you get a call that, hey, I invented a pencil or a lead pencil eraser or something like that. So that, for some reason, it's like, it doesn't flow that well, this part of the game. So like I get stuck, and this is definitely like one of those parts where I'm like, where's that guide? God damn it.
Yeah, this one feels more like a side tangent than actually progressing the plot. It's just you come across an artificial barrier, and it's like, oh, do a little side questing and talk to everybody in town.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I guess it does give you a key item, but do they really need to be there besides just another thing to take up slot in your inventory?
Probably not. Well, at some point, within this playthrough of the game, we don't have to use it anymore, so that's kind of exciting.
Yeah. No, I think we have to use it one other time.
Okay. So there are little mushroom guys that will give you a status called mushroom, and what it does is it inverts the controls, which is kind of fun because sometimes left will be up or something like that, and you have to try and, what I found was if I just reorient the controller in my hand so that up is up, you can walk around normally, but you might be holding the controller upside down or on the side, so it's kind of like a fun little game mechanic.
Yeah, well, and you definitely need a controller to get past when you have that bloody mushroom. I remember playing like this back on the emulator a long time ago.
Yeah.
And when that happened, it was like I was playing on a keyboard, so it got immediately more difficult. My brain just melted.
Yeah, that's fair. And then the only thing while you're trying to get to the Happy Village from there is there's these trees that do massive damage when they're killed. They burst into flames and kill you. So don't fight any trees. Do yourself a favor. Don't fight any trees.
Yeah, avoid the trees.
In the Happy Village, though, we discover that Paula has been kidnapped there by this blue Happy cult. So they kind of look like the KKK people. We have to go talk to Paula, who gives us the Franklin badge, which reflects lightning. At the end of the Happy cult's hideout, we fight the head boss man, who has this big... Does he have the big gold statue?
Yes, he does.
Yeah, so from the guy for the gold statue that kind of made our weird cave digging friend evil, has made this man also evil. If you don't have the Franklin badge, his lightning attacks will just utterly kill you. With it, however, it reflects it. It allows you to kill him, beat him. Everyone returns to normal. Everyone says, oh, sorry, we were just under this weird curse. My bad. We rescue Paula. We can work our way through the cave on the east side of the village, which gets us to the third Soundstone after we defeat Mondo Mole.
Mm-hmm.
Anything really stand out there? I mean, the insane cultists, they didn't really do anything super exciting? No?
No, nothing super memorable off the top of my head. I mean, you walk into that one big room with all of them.
Yeah.
And you have to talk to them to get them to move. But it's
Yeah.
always the one that's moving slightly off time than everybody else. So if you just let your eyes relax, you can kind of pick them out.
Yeah, that's fair. And then I think lots of... like, the one annoying thing is when you get a new character in this game, they start off at level 1. So at this point, like, in my game, Ness is level, let's say, 13, 14. Because he's just been flying solo. Then I get Paula. She's at level 1. Now I'm fighting all these moles and bears and bats in this cave. She's gaining, like, levels like crazy. Like, the first 2 battles, she went from level 1 to level 6 or something like that.
Yeah.
So she's becoming somewhat useful. I also forgot that you can call your dad at any point with a payphone to save your game, and when you die, you just return back to that last point you saved. So I was afraid that if I died here, I would have to go all the way back home.
Oh, yeah.
So that was like a little bit of a panic attack I had. If you know that mechanic, it's not too hard. As well as your dad kind of, you don't get money from battling. Your dad just randomly puts money into your bank account. So if you never withdraw or walk around with money, the consequence of death is like nothing.
Yeah, it's nice that once it's banked, if you die, you only lose half the money that you have on you.
Yeah. But now that we've done this, we can... we found the second sound stone. We can go back to Tucson, help out the Runaway 5, which is this jazz group, which was... colors were changed slightly because they thought they looked too much like the Blues Brothers. So they went from being all black to different colors because everyone had been like, oh man, these are the Blues Brothers, because that's a thing that was really popular in the 90s, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
Wait, maybe it was?
That jazzy, yeah, who knows? I'm too
I don't think so.
young to get
Because
Blues
what's his
Brothers.
face was in it? Belushi, like John Belushi, before he died, was in the original Blues Brothers. And he died in like the 80s. So I don't think the Blues Brothers would have been... Maybe they remade it with like the other Belushi, Jim or something.
I think that was Blues Brothers 2000.
Remember According to Jim?
I do remember that show.
What was the deal? Was his wife really hot and her sister was also hot or something? Or did they have like hot kids? Oh, it was like the wife and sister.
Yep. No, it was all about the wife and his wife's sister.
Yeah, I think so, because she was kind of bitchy to him.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. According to... Thanks, Jim Belushi, for wrecking our podcast. Big jerk.
Yeah. Yeah, way to get us side
Yeah.
tracked.
The Runaway 5 take us to Threed. Again, one of those cute naming mechanics. Gets us past the ghosts. Here, though, we found the town is being taken over, or has been taken over by zombies. After, you have to trigger an event where you see a blonde girl going into a hotel. You follow her into a room. You get captured. This prompts the third character in the game. We get to play as the inventor, Jeff.
Yeah. Paula gets in touch with him psychically.
Yeah, and he decides, hey, you know what? I gotta save him. You escape the dorm that you're at, the boarding school. Yeah. There's like a weird sequence where you have to get a monkey, or give a monkey bubble gum, hang out with a bunch of guys who are like Nessie explorers at this lake, or not explorers, but watchers. Wait for the wind to be blowing, take the monkey, Nessie comes and will take you across the lake, which then gets you to a fairly simple, I think there's like 1 or 2 little caves you have to get through. Don't fight any of the big cavemen at Stonehenge. Talk to Jeff's dad, who then gives you the Skyrunner, and the Skyrunner then helps you escape from the zombie. Or you crash into the ceiling of like your jail cell, and you can escape now, thanks to Jeff.
Yeah, and if you do actually fight the big caveman, make sure you have full health, because they will wreck you. But they do give a lot of experience.
Yeah, very true. Very, very true. From here, though, we can make our way through the little, like, past the jail cell, down some steps, up past this river, and we can go into Saturn Valley. Saturn Valley is full of these weird little, like, big head, big nose, just 2 little leg guys, Mr. Saturns. There's a really good hospital, there's a hotel you can save. I did a lot of grinding just, like, by the river, with all the alligators here, and I buffed my team up. Like, I think I was in the 30s or something. Maybe Ness was in like the 40s at this point before I went to Belch's factory. So
yeah, and Belch's factory is behind a waterfall, right? Am I not?
Mm-hmm. You have to learn. Yeah, you have to learn the password, though, from one of the Mr. Saturns, and the password is, don't do anything for 3 minutes.
Yeah, so literally put down the controller and wait for 3 minutes.
I think I went in, like, laundry or something and came back, and he's like, all right, I'll let you in. Inside, there's, like, fairly simple enemies. It's a fairly good place to grind, actually, for the most part. From there, you fight Belch.
Who legitimately belches during battle.
And gives you, like, status effects or whatever, so...
Yeah.
I didn't find him too difficult. I think at this point, though, I was kind of, like, overpowered. Like, I think Ness was... Oh, shoot, he must have been, like, 46 or something. And Jeff and Paula were, like, 38, 40. So I was, like, really, really strong. I'm almost, like, at the halfway point for levels. And I'm not even halfway through the game, so...
Yeah, you're really over-leveled.
Yeah. Well, there's nothing more satisfying than watching the little mushroom people run away from you as you approach them. So
that is true. That's like the funnest thing to get it. And every by the time you're like finished an area, you run back through it, and everybody just runs away from you, and you're like, no, I'll murder you guys all and take all this experience.
On the other side of Belch's factory, though, we can find, I think it's a mushroom guy. I don't know his name. Obviously I didn't write his down. Which unlocks the third Soundstone, which returns 3 back to just like a normal city, and it's not taken over by zombies, and everyone's happy. Yay! And from there, we can head over to the desert. So then in the desert, there's the world's longest traffic jam, so we have to go around instead of just by going by road. We have to go through the desert. There's some weird yaks, this weird like bird thing. I don't even know how you describe it.
Yeah, there's a lot of different enemies in this area. And if you're out in the sun for too long, this is where you can get sunburnt.
Mm-hmm.
But because Paula is awesome, she can actually just heal you.
Yeah, and I also feel like... there's also one that was like homesick is one of the statuses you can get, where Ness just gets like sad that he's not at home. And you have to actually call his mom, and that'll cure it. So like, there's some fun extra little statuses that make you think a little bit and adds a little bit more to this world.
Yeah, there actually is a ton of status effects in this game. So you can get like mushroomed, you can get numb, you can get sunburned. It's like, this game is kind of relentless.
Yeah. Once we get to the end of the desert, though, we get to the Foreside, which is like a big, I don't know, metropolis-looking city. We find out, though, that the Runway 5 is back in debt, so back to the gold mines. In the gold mines, we find out that the guy had to stop excavating because he ran into a bunch of moles. So the moles are strength, or there's 1 to 5 in terms of strength. Every mole you run into is the 3rd strongest mole in the cave, which I thought was really funny.
Yeah, and there's a big number 3.
Yeah.
Floating behind them.
Well, the first time I'm like, oh, cool, this is the 3rd one. And the next one I'm like, oh, this is also the 3rd one. And then like the 3rd one, I was like, yeah, okay, I get it, game. You're so funny. You're so freaking funny. We get the gold, however. We can go back to Foreside. We can help the Runaway 5. Paula gets kidnapped. Then we have to head on to the flip side of the world and go into Moonside.
Where no is yes and yes is no.
Yeah, and we have to find an invisible man with gold teeth and a unibrow that you can only see in one room, which allows you to get access to the Monotoli building, which then takes you to the statue, which we then can break. Yep. There's that statue again, which then it just shows up. We end up in like the backside of the cafe. Now we have to do something with the maid. I feel like you have to give something to the maid, right?
The tuna yogurt.
Oh, that's right. But we don't have tuna yogurt, so we have to go to the monkey caves. In the monkey caves, it's kind of like a fetch quest, like, I want a hamburger, so you give the guy a hamburger. In there, you get a hot towel, and then the next screen, he's like, I want a hot towel, I want some bean sprouts. So it's kind of like an item fetchy quest kind of maze.
And there's always 2 monkeys, kind of.
Yeah.
And basically you just like, whatever you need, you'll find in the cave. So if it's all just about like what keys you have, then you just literally bounce back and forth. I got lost so many freaking times in this thing because it all looks kind of the same. Like, there's always like the same literally legit like level or like screens for pathways. So you're like, is it the only difference is the one girl monkey has a bow and every other boy monkey is just like, what room am I in again?
Yeah.
So.
Yes. But at the end of the maze, I think the only thing you really need to get here is other than the yogurt, is there's a Dragonite, which is a really powerful kind of in-battle item, as well as we learned teleport. So as long as there's a stretch of road, you can flip around and fly anywhere that you visited before. So that's really exciting. I recommend go back up to Winters, so just outside the dorms where we found Jeff. You can buy some super powerful equipment for your team. So you can get Ness a better baseball bat, you can get Paula a frying pan, you can get Jeff, he usually uses like bottle rockets or stuff like that, as well as there's better accessories. So I recommend checking that out before we head back to Foreside and go to the Monotoli building. Now that we have the yogurt, the maid will give us access to the 48th floor, another maze area. I kind of went the right way the first time, so I didn't fully explore this area.
Yeah, and I was just wondering where I was going to get to the next fourth song, because I didn't think it was going to be at all related in these buildings. It's also we didn't really mention Pokey.
Oh yeah, so we get here, we find that our neighbor Pokey has been manipulating the Monotoli president this whole time. So Pokey, neighbor, kind of a pain in the ass, doesn't like that we're the chosen kid at the beginning. Shows up in Happy Village as one of the cultists, but he was just under mind control, so we didn't mind him. Now he's reappeared in Foreside. I don't think he had anything to do with the zombies, did he?
Not that I remember.
Okay, so somehow Pokey is working with Gygus, and it sounds like he's kind of possessed, because he turned everyone in Foreside against us and turned the president of the Monotoli building onto his side, so damn Pokey.
Yes,
but,
and he, I was going to say, this is where we actually get back Paula.
Yeah. So we rescue her. The president says, you know what, I'm so sorry. The next place you want to go to is Summer. Makes sense. Not really. You can use my helicopter. Pokey, however, steals the helicopter and takes off, and you're like, damn him. The Runaway 5 give you a ride back to Threed. They kind of give you a hint that you should use the Skyrunner. You can use the Skyrunner back to Jeff's dad's lab. If you recall, there was one of the Soundstone kind of enemies just by the, what's it called, Stonehenge. And we can go and battle the another little mushroom guy. I don't know if they're all mushrooms at this point. And get our 4th Soundstone. So, pretty exciting. Halfway through.
Yes. And so far so good. Any immediate complaints?
Yes, just so that's kind of where we stopped for this point. So we got to, I think I got to Summer, like I'm sitting on the beach or whatever. So I took the Skyrunner from Jeff's dad's lab, went to Summer, crashed on the beach. That's where I stopped. That's kind of the halfway point in the game. We've unlocked 4 of the points. For the most part, I had a good time. Like, my notes were very minimal on this one, as opposed to usually have a lot more detail. And I had a lot of fun, a lot of enjoyment. And again, there's just nothing more satisfying than watching those little guys run away and like being able to take them out in one hit. So I'm having a good time. I'm looking forward to picking it up again. Unfortunately, I kind of started a new job, was working like 12-hour days, moved, didn't really have time to get further into it. So we're putting a bookmark in it for now, and we'll come back to it probably the end of January.
Yeah, and so far I'm enjoying it. Not really what I was expecting. The whole not random encounters, that actually running into the enemies on the top or on the overworld actually just makes a big difference in these games.
Yeah.
Where you can kind of avoid grinding when you need to, as opposed to games that have you just literally just random encounters where it's like, oh, screen flashes, you're in a battle. It's like, oh, okay. I think I kind of prefer running into the actual enemies, so much so that it just makes playing the game more playable, because you can kind of skip past guys if you don't really feel like fighting them, or if you want to grind out for a little bit, you can make sure you just hit every single one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so far so good.
Excellent. Nice. So kind of if I ask, would you change anything about this game? I honestly wrote, I think I wrote maybe like a hint system, just if they had a little bit better of an idea of where you're supposed to go next would be kind of nice. But yeah. I really don't have any criticisms of this game, so
you would improve its conveyance?
Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. I was actually looking, yeah, like maybe a bit better for conveyance, but I think it's also supposed to be you're a kid in the world exploring, so explore. We're not going to hold your hand.
True. I also like how they kind of set this up where your mom and your dad are like, yeah, no, we're totally okay with you leaving and going and exploring and following your destiny. You're like, I like how they address that. It's not just like you just leave one day without telling your mom anything.
Yeah. Well, I have something about that. So, you don't want to change anything? That's kind of our current thoughts. We blew through that a little bit. Wow, good for us. Good job, team.
Yeah. Well, once you start playing this game, it's really hard to stop playing this game.
We are doing a second part, and I think we'll probably get a little bit more into it in that part too, kind of wrap it up, kind of deal more with what's going on in the story. So this will be released. We can listen to it. If there's anything we miss, we'll cover it there. So don't panic, internet. We got you covered. A final, are you buying it? So a theory that I came up with on this game mentioned, it kind of touches on what Tyson just talked about. And then we're out of here. So everyone in this world buys into the idea of predestination. This is the mindset that everything that happens is supposed to happen. There's no changing your future or actions because everything happens on a set path. There is no evil. There is no good. You just do what you're supposed to do. Think about it. There are cops that stop crime, but there are no courtrooms. They don't try you. Just they know my job is to stop crime, and the guys in Burglar Park, who are burglars, his job is to commit crime. So everyone has bought it so highly into the idea of predestination that when you say, hey, I'm Ness, I'm a hero, everyone says, well, let's get going, kid. Let's see if we can give you a hand. Because obviously I'm destined to help you, and you're destined to be a hero. So, Are you buying it?
Well, even Jeff gets like one psychic message from a person he's never met before. It's like, oh yeah, no, I'll show up. Okay, I'll go. Let me just go risk my life and go on this mini adventure and go to my dad's place and steal and get in a spaceship and fly over there. And you're like, yeah, I think people have to buy into just like everything is involved in predestination.
Yeah.
So, I'll agree.
Nice. Awesome. I think that wraps up the show. I think for the most part, other than maybe missing some of like the more minute details, I think we covered everything. I'm curious because sometimes I find when we talk like longingly on our level notes, sometimes I'm like, I didn't really quite follow. Like, I don't know if it's just because I'm not listening and paying attention. So I'm curious is because we just kind of free floated it a little bit better, if it makes more sense. So that's my like criticism. Internet, if someone is listening and they notice, hey, this is different, this is better, please let us know, specifically on this episode. Listen to it, pick another episode, listen to it, listen to this one. Let us know if it sounds better, the same, different, worse. I'm curious.
Yeah. It'd be nice to know if it is easier to follow, because we have to go by, we skip things that aren't necessary.
Yeah.
And not get like lost and then this happened and then this happened.
Exactly. It's nice. All right. So, Tyson, did we miss anything?
Well, if we did, we can always pick it up on part 2.
That's the beauty of doing 2 parts, is we can always pick stuff up. So, cool. All right. So, with that, I guess our closing, we are out of here. So, thank you for listening. You can contact Podtendo at Twitter, Podtendo Podcast. Email us at podtendo@gmail.com. Or check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/Podtendo, or YouTube at Facebook or youtube.com/Podtendo. The music of Podtendo is used without permission and is property of Nintendo. Is that right?
I think so.
Nailed it. See you guys.
Nice. See ya.